So I hope I gave you some things to think about. Ladies and gentlemen, the fabulous Susan Gerbic.
All right. So I'm here to hopefully recruit you to become one of my editors. If not that, at least you will leave today with a lot more understanding about how Wikipedia works and how Wikipedia is one of the best skeptic resources we have today. And it is absolutely a problem that we are not using it fully for the skeptical, to get our mind out there, to get our word out there, because as Mark said, we don't want to preach just to the choir. We need to preach to the general audience, to people all over the world. And you're going to see this today from, hopefully, from my presentation. March for Science. Did they do that here in Arizona? A lot of people showed up? Science! Yeah! We march for science! I'm a professional photographer by trade, and so I like to take, I'm a portrait photographer. Well, I'm retired now. But this is the picture I took of my group in Monterey, California. This is the one picture I took to represent our march. And you look at it, it's great. It symbolizes everything that we want to do. People are excited about science. We're excited about it. And women and children, even more so. Look at these people. Look at this young guy over here. Isn't he excited? He's got his pink hat on. Isn't that great? Look at his socks. He's so excited. This is his first protest, first anything ever. It's so exciting. I love science. Look at this poor guy over here. He doesn't look so happy. Anybody else come dressed as woodpeckers? No? Well, he doesn't look like he wanted to be dressed as a woodpecker either. But that is what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get science out into the masses and make people love science and be excited about it. So we solved the problem, right? We all showed up. April of 2017, huge, huge amounts of people all over the world. Everybody was so excited. Then what? What happened? Did we solve it? What happened? The administration didn't do anything about it. They didn't take us seriously. They didn't care. Have we seen changes? Who's still running the EPA? We didn't have a strong enough voice. Or if we had a strong voice, we didn't follow up with anything. We marched. Wonderful. So now what? There was write your congressman? Vote? Okay, that's about the best we got out of that. So that's my premise today. I marched for science. I loved it. I even went in LA to the March for Science in 2018. I think there might have been 100 people there in LA. It was horrible, just embarrassing. So now I'm going to offer you a solution. All right, this is my solution. You guys can come along on this journey with me if you want. I'm Susan Gerbic. I am the leader and the founder of the Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia Project. We are an international group of editors that we find in groups just like you guys, or people who listen to podcasts or interviews or read about it, what we're doing, and they join my project. We train from the beginning, from the very first edit you ever make, and we follow you all the way through your whole career, which should last for years. We are changing the world for the better. We are writing to improve. We're trying to improve, rewrite, create, inspire, and support science and Wikipedia, on Wikipedia in the paranormal, science, and skeptic realms. We're not really focused on anything beyond that, though we do, our editors do work on Wikipedia pages and all kinds of things, all kinds of interests that they have. But the Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia Project, which we know as GSOW, you'll hear me call it that because it's so much quicker to say, we're trying to work on these pages that have to do with medical, alternative medicine, the history, everything that goes on behind the scenes that has to do with science, scientific skepticism, and the paranormal. We want to have the backs of the people who are out there on the front lines, who are doing the work, who are putting their face out there. Do you know that in the Middle East and some other countries, like even in Germany and France, people are being killed because of their God beliefs or lack of God beliefs. for even considering that may not be a supreme being in the sky that's watching us. Here in America, we're like, you know, but this is happening all over the world. This is very scary. It's very, very awful. So we need to have the backs of these people. And my project, the Gso W Project, is doing just that. We are trying to write their Wikipedia pages to get their story out there. And we're not just doing it in English, because guess what? The world doesn't speak English only. Wikipedia needs to be written in pages in ways that we can understand it, the average person can read it and understand it and get something out of it, and they need to read it in the language that they're comfortable reading it in. And they shouldn't have to rely on Google Translate, and they shouldn't have to rely on their child who speaks English to read it and tell them what it says. No. Alternative medicine pages, paranormal pages, the biographies of the people in our world, those pages need to be well-written, with great citations, and in languages people want to read them in. And that's what we do. Okay, so we do this by recruiting people, training and mentoring science-minded people all over the world. We advocate for better communication, and we want to give you a better outlet for your frustrations, because we're seeing people on social media spend hour after hour because somebody's wrong, and your blood pressure goes up like this, and you just are fighting with this person on Twitter or Facebook, and you're not convincing anybody. They're not reading the links that you're putting up there. People tell me, oh, but somebody might be watching. I might be convincing them. It's like, no. Put all that energy and drive that you have and passion you have for getting facts out there into a place where people are going to be reading it and accessing it from all over the world for free with no ads. You know, that's where they're going to go. Where is it they're going to go? Wikipedia, right? Because that's where people need to get the information of. So, the goals of the Gso W Project are absolutely astronomical. We're trying to rewrite all pages concerning science, scientific skepticism, and the paranormal in all languages. This may be absolutely a crazy idea, but there could be thousands and thousands of pages, but my goal is to find, motivate, and train people to do this. And if you can't join the Gso W Project, that's fine. There's other ways of helping us out, just getting the word out, allowing people like myself to go and lecture in other places to be able to get more people to join is a lot of help. We really, really need to get this word out there because, like I said, we're trying to get beyond the skeptical choir. My group is now 122 people. We're located in a place on a secret Facebook group we call the Secret Cabal. I'm not kidding. And in that Secret Cabal, we discuss all the edits, the work we're doing, all the different things that go on behind the scenes of Wikipedia, as well as training and motivating each person. We're really, really big on inspiring, motivating, proofreading, trying really hard to make sure that everybody in our team feels important and part of the group. So, I've got some stories. And I do this lecture a lot. As Mark said, I've been all over the world lecturing the last couple years. And I try to tailor it to the group. So, this is for you guys. Anybody know who this is? Can you see that well enough to know who that is? Local hero, local guy. Okay, not only is, I said we're focusing on science. Now, we're not necessarily writing Wikipedia pages focused on a chemical compound. But what we want to do is we want to tell the stories of people who are scientists to inspire people to go into science so that people will be able to say, child doing a project for school might stumble across a Wikipedia page. So nobody here knows who this is. Poor guy. This is Thomas Bopp. Does that ring a bell? Hale Bopp? Yes. Local guy, right? Okay. So this is the story of Thomas Bopp. And I'm going to give you, I think, 3 stories today. It's not important that you guys know exactly who each of these people are. It's the story I'm telling about what Gso W does. And this is one example. So you don't have to read this page. Just kind of look at it as an overview. So Thomas Bopp I don't know if you know, he died in January. He was a astronomer, but actually not a real, he was an amateur astronomer, unpaid here in Arizona. And we came across his Wikipedia page because we rewrote the Wikipedia page for Alan Hale, not the skipper from Gilligan's Island, but the guy who co-discovered the Hale-Bopp comet. So Thomas Bopp was a man who loved science. His father, from a very young age, would take him out on the porch and they'd look at the stars in the sky and he'd talk about that with him. Gave him a love of it. He didn't major in science. He went to the Air Force, got married, had a child, eventually ended up in Arizona. And he was with an astronomical society here in, I don't want to pronounce it because I know I'll mispronounce it, but an astronomical society here in Arizona. And he went out into the desert, and they were looking at the sky, and he'd never seen a comet before. He was very curious about what it would look like. So he borrowed one of the guy's telescopes, and they were looking at something, and they're looking through it, and he says, "What's that fuzzy thing? What is that fuzzy thing right there?" And they're like, I don't know. And they start tracking it, and they spent the night, and they're tracking it along. And they said, okay, so the way it works is when you write in, or you call in, or you send an email to this group that tracks all this, the comments and all these different kinds of things, an astronomical society of whatever. I can't remember at the moment. But so he was out in the desert. He didn't have cell phone coverage. So he got to a payphone, and then he realized, I don't know who I'm calling. So he waited, and he went home, and he sent a telegram, believe it or not. And at the same time, Alan Hale, who was a professional astronomer, was also seeing the same comet, and they both reported. And that's why it's Hale-Bopp, because Alan Hale got his word in first, and then Bopp came in right after. So Thomas Bopp was working in a manager of a construction company, I believe, in Arizona. He was not an astronomer. He didn't have an advanced degree. He didn't even have a fancy telescope. He was using some guy's telescope. I'm sure it was a really nice telescope, but it was a handmade, somebody made in their garage kind of telescope. It's still probably a very nice one. So Thomas Bopp goes on, and here's the next part of the page, just so you can see it. Thomas Bopp goes on to start, a lecture circuit because he became famous. And some of the things you might not know about Thomas Bopp is that when Hale-Bopp was in the sky, his brother and sister-in-law were out driving around to photograph it, and they were killed in a car accident the night that they were photographing Hale-Bopp. So Thomas Bopp says, and this says it in the Wikipedia page, that this is one of the worst weeks of his life as well as one of the best weeks of his life. So he died of liver failure January 5th. He was only 68, very young man. And it's a sad story, but the reason why we tell this in the Wikipedia page is because we want people who stumble across the Hale-Bopp story to read the page from beginning to end, follow the citations that are at the bottom of the page, and be inspired as a young person who maybe is thinking about a career in astronomy, to be able to, why are these words so familiar, similar? Anyway, psychic, skeptic, psychic, yes, astronomy, astronomer. Okay, so we want them to hopefully be inspired to know that you don't have to come from an Ivy League college to be somebody. You can be just somebody who's looking up in the sky one day and say, what is that fuzzy thing? And just kind of know how to go from there. It's an inspiring story that we want young people and everyone else to find and be inspired by, that they can go farther. And maybe science is something that they should go into. Look at the citations on here. This is an awesome page. You guys have all been looking at the page. 29 citations. It's beautiful. That's a beautiful Wikipedia page. Here's the Wikipedia page that we found. We rewrote this page, by the way. So this is what it looked like before we got to it. This is a stub. I call it a non-scroller. In other words, you don't have to scroll to see the whole thing. We're at 4 citations. Is this a respectable page for a person of such, somebody in our community, somebody we should be proud of, somebody who should inspire young people to go into science? This is not what we want on Wikipedia. We need to get this kind of stuff rewritten and put in a way where people find it and read it and go, wow. There's some middle schooler somewhere now is reading the Wikipedia page for Thomas Bopp and is plagiarizing it. And that's cool with me. So here's the Wikipedia page views, and I don't know how well you can see it from there, but this is a stat tool. This is going from December 2016, and you can sort of see these blue stats. This is when we made the page live appear, and it's got 5,000 page views in one day. And as we go across here, you can see he's hitting about 4,000 page views in one day, because this is when he died in January, and then on further. So he hits about 50, 75 page views a day. Not a lot, but enough that we should have this Wikipedia page in order because people are accessing it. Since we created this page, it's been viewed 29,439 times. That's a lot of views, 29,000 page views. We don't know if they were on it for 2 seconds. We don't know if they go on to repeatedly, the same person. We don't know, but we know it's been accessed 29,000 times. I wrote an article about this, by the way, for CSI. I write for CSI. I'm a fellow of the Center for Inquiry and affiliated with a lot of other groups like the James Randi Educational Foundation. So CFI, I wrote this article. It talks about a lot of the things I just talked to you about what Gso W does. So I've got a couple stories more. This one is Tyler Henry. Mark kind of set this up. Mark is a professional, he's an expert on psychics. And so we do a lot of things that has to do with grief vampires. That's a word that Mark coined. We call them grief vampires, and we do a lot of different things with these. Anybody know of Tyler Henry or seen his name on TV? Tyler Henry? There's one or two. Okay, good, yeah. So it's not important that you know who this person is specifically. Remember, just keep the story in mind that what I'm trying to tell you is a story of how Wikipedia is strong and what Gso W is doing with it. He's the flavor of the day, fuzzy sweater psychic. That's what Mark calls them, is fuzzy sweater psychics, because they're those people who look like they could, you know, bag your groceries and look out for your house when you're out of town and walk your dog for you. Those sweet, nice people who would never lie to you. Okay, well, he's lying to you. So I've written about a lot of different psychics, but this one right here is the one I've been focusing on the most because he's very young and he had no criticism whatsoever. And so when people would Google his name, because he's on the E! Network with the Hollywood Medium, 3rd season, by the way. So if you Google it, people would get this wonderful things, glowing things about him and how he's been a psychic and since the age of 7, whenever he saw his grandmother, you know, all this nonsense. So I've been writing a lot about him. Here he is with one of our favorite people. Anybody know Dr. Phil? Dr. Phil will tell you that he is the biggest skeptic in the world. Look at him with his arm around him. Little buddy. Nice guy. So I've been writing a lot about Tyler Henry over the years. These are the Wikipedia page view stats for Tyler Henry. Again, we're starting out in 2016, and you can see his Wikipedia page was accessed 14,000 times because he's getting so much media coverage. You guys might not know who he is, but guess what? There's people all over the world who are looking at it going, ooh, Tyler Henry, who's that? And they're going to end up on a internet search. They're going to find Tyler Henry's name. They're going to go to the Wikipedia page because that's where we go. And then this is where they're getting accessing their information. So look, there's huge page views, all in season 1. And then we go down here, season 2. See all these hits? All the way down here. And this is the beginning of season 3. Right here is where I ended when I copied this slide. So during this time, 18 months more or less, it's viewed 849,000 times. We're not getting our message out there very well, are we? People still believe in psychics. Very sad. Now, I personally have a Wikipedia page. Susan Gerbic has a Wikipedia page. I shouldn't have anybody hitting on that Wikipedia page, except maybe a few people in the audience who are curious who I am. And so it works as a control. So you can see, I'm the chief critic on the Wikipedia page for Tyler Henry. So are people looking at Tyler Henry's Wikipedia page and then going to the chief critic's Wikipedia page? Are they doing that? And here's how we can tell. You can see here stats for the Susan Gerbic page. It went up, not in the thousands. This is like 250 a day. But you can see the spike. And then you can see the next spike whenever I became more prominent on the Tyler Henry Wikipedia page. And then down here you can see another spike as we get ready for the 3rd season of Tyler Henry. You guys can see those okay? I hope. So I'm going to put those two together, and I want you to see if you notice anything. So now this is a logarithmic scale. Say it with me, logarithmic. And on this logarithmic scale, you can see that what they're doing is they're just they're just putting the stats on here so you could see it on one slide. So these blue stats up here are thousands of page views, and these green stats are hundreds of page views. But you can see the trend, right? You can see. It's pretty obvious that people are going from one page to the next page. You can see all kinds of things, like there's this little twin towers here, right here, and here. You can see how it's spiking these three here, these three here. You can see that it's pretty much corresponding. They're going from one, here's a spike, here's a spike. They're going from one page to the other. Let me move away for a second. Can you see anything odd with the Gerbic stats? Dips. Yeah, dips. Look at this. That doesn't correspond here. And then where's the other one? Over here. That doesn't correspond here. What's going on? Ideas? What do you think? Where's my editor? What do you think? What's the problem over there? What happened? What was that? Somebody took this Gerbic, the Tyler Henry page, and took all the criticism out. So they're still accessing the page, but there's no criticism. So this works as a kind of a control. You can see that when the criticism's removed from the page, they're only accessing my Wikipedia page because I'm on the Tyler Henry page. So we're showing, it's a way of showing that having the Wikipedia page views, having criticism, notable secondary criticism on a Wikipedia page, people are actually accessing it. Not in the thousands of views that we would like, but they are accessing it. So this is important. We have great criticism. Now this is my last story. Anybody heard of What the Health? Good. This was on Netflix not too long ago. I'd never heard of it either. Now, there's nothing wrong with veganism, but this is a Netflix documentary that is anti-science. It is nonsense, absolutely pure nonsense. And I'd never heard of it. I'm very active on Facebook, and people write to me all the time, and they said, Susan, what's going on with What the Health? I'm like, I don't know, I've never heard of it. They said, look at their Wikipedia page. What is this? So we're looking all over going, oh my goodness, this is on Netflix? This documentary's on Netflix? This is crazy. We got to get some information on the Wikipedia page because people are going to go there and they're going to look and they're going to want to know what's going on. So we found the Wikipedia page, and if you look at this, this is what we found. This has no criticism whatsoever. It's just, it's an Indiegogo movie and it was on Netflix, blah, 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 just like a basic history. Then it has all this information here, featured individuals. It's got all these cool stuff, like this is a internal medicine physician, assistant professor at NYU School of Medicine. Here's another physician who's an author. Here's a clinical researcher. That sounds like this is a real documentary, doesn't it? Look at all these notable, really fantastic people on the Wikipedia page that were in the movie. Sounds great. If I don't know any better, I don't know anything about alternative medicine, I might look at this Wikipedia page and say, this is real science, right? Wouldn't you kind of conclude that just by looking at a page like this? What people don't understand is if they don't have blue links, if there's no blue links for these names, these people are not notable. That means they don't have a Wikipedia page, which means they're not notable enough to be even on Wikipedia, so therefore their opinion necessarily doesn't matter as much. We also don't know if these are critics of the movie, of the documentary, or if these are supporters. We don't know if they were on the show for 10 seconds. I don't know. So this Wikipedia page needs to go, because this is not well written. It's not explaining it well. People are going to be misled. This is what it was as far as references, 7. Okay, so what do? I know a ton of people. I love science-based medicine. Anybody here fans of science-based medicine? Oh, good. I can say that. Okay, the entire audience reads you guys all the time. So they're an amazing team of people. Harriet Hall is a very good friend of mine. Anybody know the Skep Doctor? She writes for Skeptic and Skeptical Inquirer. She's a medical doctor, retired now, from the Air Force. Anyway, so Harriet Hall, I wrote to her and I said, Harriet, there's no criticism whatsoever. Can you write something about this movie? And she says, okay. And she reads it, and she goes, so she writes me back. She says, okay, it'll be up on Tuesday. She's notable, which means she has a Wikipedia page. So she can be quoted on a Wikipedia page because she's notable. It's a cycle thing that makes sense to some people. Hard to explain. So she writes an article for us. And that was the only criticism we can find until we found this guy. This guy is a medical doctor. He has a YouTube site called ZDogMD. I've never really known much of him either, but he is a real doctor. He's notable. He's published something on this documentary, and I'll read this out to you so that for the audio. It says, got a Facebook friend telling you to watch the Netflix documentary, What the Health? We wasted an hour and a half, so you don't have to. So now his opinion from this video can be something that's quoted on the Wikipedia page. So this is what we put up on the Wikipedia page for What the Health. That was the stupidest expletive thing I've ever seen. I felt like I've lost expleted brain cells. That's what it says on the Wikipedia page for What the Health. We summarized this guy's opinion. That's what's on there. And then Harriet came out with her blog, and this is something you can find on Science-Based Medicine, What the Health, a movie with an agenda. By the way, Harriet told me, you owe me 2 hours, Susan, because that was awful. And I had to watch it, so you owe me 2 hours back in my life. So Harriet wrote this article. Look at the page views for this movie. You guys never heard of it, right? Look. Here's when it came out. 2017, June of 2017, it hit Netflix. It was nothing. And then it goes, this is 6,000 page views in one day. People are looking at Wikipedia to find out what this movie's about. I'm telling you. Then here's where we added our criticism just in time. Because look at the page views. They went up to 9,000 page views in one day. 9,000 page views people wanted to know. And thankfully, we had our information on there in time. And it's gone down as What the Health is kind of left. And I printed out the slide October of 2017, and we're about 1,000 page views a day. Now that it's more or less off of Netflix, 1,000 people a day are still accessing this Wikipedia page to find out what this documentary is about. If it wasn't for a project like Gso W, nobody would have done this. Nobody. We wrote the page and we translated it into Polish, and it's got a bunch of page views too. So I'm going to put this on here too really quick. This is what Harriet wrote that we were able to put on the Wikipedia page. What the Health espouses the fairy tale that all major diseases can be prevented and cured by eliminating meat and dairy from the diet. It is biased and misleading and is not a reliable source of scientific information. So that's on the Wikipedia page for people to find. So now when people are Googling What the Health and they get the Wikipedia page and they go look at it, now they're getting some really good information. Okay, here's my last real story that I want to sum up. Anybody know who Stanley Plotkin is? You do? Oh, okay. Anybody heard of Stanley Plotkin? This man may have saved the life of somebody in this room. Maybe saved several of your lives. He is one of the people who is, had a very important role in vaccines for German measles, rubella, for the viruses concerned with rabies, vaccines for, gosh, I can't think of the other one right at the moment. I'll have to reread the Wikipedia page. He's been very instrumental in a lot of vaccines, all right? So we rewrote this Wikipedia page. This is the page we wrote. We rewrote it. Here's the citations on it now. So you can see it's got 23 page citations, beautiful page, lots of information. Now here's what it looked like before we got involved. Another non-scroller. There are tons of them. What's wrong with us? These people represent us, and we don't have their backs. We're allowing this crap to be up on Wikipedia for the world to see because we're not paying attention. We're busy arguing on Twitter and Facebook. 5 citations. So I wrote to him. Paul Offit's a friend of ours. And he's the one that said, hey, why don't you guys look at Stanley Plotkin and maybe do something for his Wikipedia page. 2 years went by, and we finally got to it. There's only 122 people on my team. That's a little tiny, tiny little bit. I should point out that there's thousands and thousands of Wikipedia editors who do the majority of work on Wikipedia. A lot of it is skeptically focused because the rules of Wikipedia are skeptic rules. So this guy, so we rewrote the Wikipedia page, and then I wrote to him, sent him an email. Here's what he wrote me. I'm flattered that you undertook this as I approach the end of my career and ask myself whether or not I have accomplished anything. Just let that sink in. This man who saved all these lives all over the world, asked for no thanks, had this horrible, crappy Wikipedia page because he was forgotten by the people who should know better. Our community, the science community. We've allowed that. And he's an amazing person. I've learned a lot about him. He went into, in his 20s, he had the choice of becoming a pilot or going into science. And he chose science because he chose to save lives. In his 70s, he went back and got his pilot's license. It was really cool. Okay, so we have evidence on our side, but unless we can find creative ways to get this information out to places where people can read it in languages that they understand, that we will always be fighting fake news and celebrities on Twitter and on Facebook. We make up a small percentage of the population, as she was telling us earlier, that there's a very small group of free thinkers, atheists, skeptics, whatever you guys call yourselves, critical thinkers. There's a very small percentage of us. We're all over. We need to find each other. So I know skeptics like numbers, so I'm going to mention a couple numbers. And these numbers change every day, so I have them written down here. One of the things I learned today or yesterday was somebody told me that millennials are really starting to fall away from religion. Have you guys heard that? The nuns? We don't really know much about that. We know that they're starting to leave organized religion, but we don't know if they're actually leaving God beliefs. We don't know that. All we know is that more people are saying that they're just spiritual, they don't care, you know. So we don't really know a lot about that. But somebody told me, I just read this article, it's on my Facebook page if you're interested, by Stuart Vyse, writing for CFI. He said that millennials are starting to get into astrology. Have you heard that? Can you believe it? And I think it kind of makes sense because as she was talking about earlier, we just focus on the negative. And we take away, take away, take away, take away. We don't give back as well as we should. We don't tell personal stories like I did with Stanley Plotkin and Thomas Bopp well. We don't do that really well. We're just takers, you know. So I'm not so sure about this astrology link, but I think we should watch it. I noticed, I was looking at Wikipedia stats this morning, and one of the things that Wikipedia stats of page views does is it tells you a good generic how well are people looking at the Wikipedia page from all over. And back 2 years ago, the astrology page was getting about 2,500 page views a day. That's a lot, 2,500. But it dropped in 2016 to a little over 2,000, and now it's at 1,800 page views a day. That's still a lot of people looking at a Wikipedia page for pseudoscience like astrology, but it is dropping. So I'm not so sure that the millennials are starting to get into astrology. I know they are starting to get into anti-vax, alternative medicine, and more spiritually kind of crystal-y things. And we're starting to see a resurgence a bit, huh, Mark, in the psychic world. If you go to psychic events, as we do, it's filled with women in their middle ages, but we're also starting to see more and more children, well, not children, but you know, the millennials showing up. They're looking for something. And atheism necessarily, you know, are we giving them something? I think science is awesome and amazing, but I don't know if we've got our message quite right, and I don't have the answer. But my point is that we got to start somewhere. And so Wikipedia, the Gso W Project, I'm going to finish up on this. The Gso W Project has written or completely rewritten, like we did Thomas Bopp and Stanley Plotkin, 626 pages. That's how many we've written. I just checked this morning. 626 pages out of the thousands we still have yet to do. But that's a lot. We've made a footnote. We've made inroads. We also write a lot of Wikipedia pages using citations from places like the Humanist Association's articles they put out. Because when they're printed in things like Skeptical Inquirer, it's a notable article. It's a journal that we can quote from. So we have actually used magazines like this to make lots and lots of edits to general Wikipedia pages all over in many languages. But as far as rewriting a page completely, we're at 626. Those 626 pages, we keep track of the page views. And those 626 pages have now reached, in 1 month, been viewed 968,493 times. But in general, if we took all 626 Wikipedia pages and put them in a little pile and looked at every page view, as of this morning, those pages, in multiple languages, we write in multiple languages, 26,828,431. So we're getting something done. So I believe we should go out and march for science. I'm all for that. I love science. It's fun. I took lots of photographs. I had a blast. But unless we have a follow-up that's beyond writing to your congressperson, we need to have some other projects that we can do, things to support, things to be able to do, to make a difference, because 26 million page views is nothing to sneeze at. That's way better than a book or a blog or somebody arguing on Facebook or Twitter. Thank you.
We'll have a question and answer period. One of the questions I was going to ask you is, if someone is writing an article, would you accept them sending it to you to review before he prints it?
An article that's
like an article that...
Like somebody's writing for a journal or something? Or,
yes, or even a book.
Okay, so no, because I don't have that kind of time. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, is that what they say? So if you have something that needs to be done or anything of that sort, please bug me. That's fine. I'm retired, so I have plenty of time to do that. But to use Wikipedia, to be able to quote it on Wikipedia, it has to come from a notable place or a notable person. And that sounds very kind of mean, but we can't just allow a blog or a website or anything to go up, or any kind of self-published book. The only thing we can quote on Wikipedia are things that are published in peer-reviewed journals, something with a reputation, something like Skeptical Inquirer magazine. If you're published in Skeptical Inquirer magazine, oops, then you are going to be, or what's the Free Inquiry? Something like that. That can be turned around and published onto a Wikipedia page. So if you get an article in something like that, please go ahead and forward it to me and say, hey, can you use this on a Wikipedia page? I write a lot of articles for Skeptical Inquirer. In fact, I will be writing an article about this exact lecture that I'm doing today. I was just in New Mexico last month, and the article should be out any day now. And what I do is when I write the article, I write it with Wikipedia in mind. So I will write things that happened or whatever, and then we could turn around and use the citation on a Wikipedia page for something that happened in New Mexico. Like I went and toured a science museum that has a really crappy Wikipedia page. So I wrote a lot about how I went through the museum and what I thought about it. Because I have a Wikipedia page, I can actually do that. So if there's something that's technical you guys really have a question about, I might answer that, because we've got, I could stay all day. Well, my plane leaves tonight, but I'll be happy to answer those questions. So more questions. Do you want to come to the microphone, or do you want to?
Yeah, please come to the microphone so that everyone can hear you and it gets recorded.
Yeah, we want to record this for posterity. Okay, here's my one editor of Wikipedia here.
Okay, more of a comment than a question. That I just finished a website writing job for scientific content that educate the general population as well as oncologists. And we had I wrote a Wikipedia page, or an insert within a Wikipedia page that linked to a WordPress website that was fully referenced with links to PubMed and stuff like that. So we were kind of covering our rears.
Right.
And just kind of a comment, too, on the what the health thing. Mm-hmm. There's a guy in Tucson who is claiming that all animal proteins cause cancer, which for me is preposterous. Then just educating people, showing the sequence alignment of proteins, like say cytochrome C, oxidase that might exist in plants and animals, and say how are these proteins different? This is what a protein is. How can this protein cause cancer and this protein not? There's just this mythology of that has people scared, and just to link somewhere that's scientifically referenced and explained in terms, whether it's on Wikipedia or some other website, where people will just know the facts in terms that they can understand, I think would help a lot, because I think this mythology is getting people scared for no reason.
Right. Okay, so really, you know, I'm of mixed feelings about blogs and those kinds of things, because they are going to approach an audience, which is fantastic, but it has a limited amount. I mean, if you could get that onto a journal or sum it up onto a journal article that's published somewhere, then we can turn around and use that on Wikipedia. And once we use it on Wikipedia, it's going to go to an even larger audience. It won't necessarily, they may not go and read your article, but we sum it up on the Wikipedia page, as you know, and then they'll look at that, and then they have the option to go to the citation at the bottom and go and read your article. We love it when you focus on specific people. Like you said, there's a person. If you can focus on a specific person, that's what we do with psychics. Then we can go to their specific Wikipedia page and follow up and say, this is BS and this is why. And here's the citations to prove it and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, we like that kind of thing. Go ahead. You come on down. Wait, he has one. Oh, there's 2 microphones. Is that one on too?
Yeah, I can talk here, I think. When you asked for editors, you should have asked for contributors, you know.
Contributors, money. Right. Oh, money. Yeah, that's always nice. We have a donate button.
Raise my hand.
Oh, thank you.
I just don't write. Also, I managed to my surprise, to capture the internet name Skepticrat some years ago. Where I write things, people don't read it. But we had a meeting the other night of a group of skeptics, which is sort of dissipating, and the topic came up about this being a phenomenon that's occurring around the country. Skeptics groups are diminishing.
Yes.
Are you aware of that phenomenon, and why?
That's a really great question. Yes, I almost could be considered an expert on this topic, believe it or not. I travel all over the world. I join almost every Facebook group I can possibly join, and a lot of meetup groups of skeptic orientations. I write about this phenomena. I'm really big on conferences. What I'm seeing, and this is worldwide, and I've been all over, Bulgaria, Budapest, all over, Poland, Czech Republic. There is a European skeptic group that is finally finding its feet again, that has all the skeptic groups. I've talked in Sweden, Oslo, all over. What's happening is we're lacking leadership. We're lacking leadership in our groups. A lot of people, we're all busy, obviously, and we have a lot of things to distract us, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. We're leaderless. And especially in the European countries, their eye has gone towards academics. The people who led these groups in the past are these academics, people with PhDs. And we're losing them, or they're not comfortable with social media. And what you need to do is we have to have a, what is this, come to Jesus moment and start talking about this. Absolutely, it's very important. What we need are people who are media savvy, who can run like this, the cameras, the social media, handle all that. Those are the leaders we need, who are passionate, energetic, and have a way of doing this. Those are the people, and those people may not have a PhD. I run a group called Monterey County Skeptics in Monterey County. Please come out and see us in California. We have a skeptic camp every year. We are growing. We're doing a lot of really fun things. I see just up on the stage what you guys are doing. This is awesome. What other groups, when they do go do something, they lack the outreach. They don't go to the media, the local media, and they don't go to speak out at, you know what, can you hand me my, right there in that, just hand me that plastic thing right there, yeah. What we're lacking is stuff like this. When we do our skeptic camp, we went to the local media. This is the Monterey County Herald. And here is an article about our Skeptic Camp in the newspaper. Remember, print newspaper, and actually went online. People aren't doing this anymore. Advertising our group. This is Leonard Chamel from CFI, and there's my Skeptic Camp thing. They're not doing outreach. We're not doing outreach, and whenever you're done with something like this lecture, people aren't necessarily putting up the video. This group, doing a video and putting it up on YouTube, I think I've spoken maybe 25 times in the last year. I think you're the second group that's put up a video. That's not being done. So there's no outreach. We're dying out, and we're not going after the young people. Hi.
Hi. I just coincidentally put on one of my Monterey shirts. I love Monterey.
Yay!
And,
come see us, January.
Point Lobos.
Yeah, beautiful. Cool, too.
So what stops, like if you go, I can understand certainly if you rewrite someone's page and it's positive, they love it. But when you go and you put, like you said, negative comments or, what keeps them from just going back and taking that off?
It's a very good question. And it doesn't happen very often. And the reason why is because there are some very strict rules on Wikipedia. And the paranormal community isn't very organized. They're way less apathetic. They're way more apathetic than the skeptic community, trust me. They're also kind of woo-hoo out there when it comes to rules. They don't understand what the word evidence means. I don't know why. They don't understand about citations and notable and secondary. And so when they try to do something like that, it's taken off in a minute by anybody who's in the skeptic community or just a regular editor of Wikipedia because it's not done correctly. They don't follow rules. And a lot of times they're banned because they get all upset. It's just conspiracy against homeopathy. You're like, oh, well, sorry, you're banned now because you're a nut, So we don't see a lot of vandalism on the pages. And most of the pages we work on are pages that have been, how do I say, abandoned, that there hasn't been a lot of edits on, like Stanley Plotkin and Thomas Bopp. But What's the Health we did have a little battle with. But the thing is that we follow the rules. And what we're doing by putting the skeptical content on there is 100% by the rules. So there's nothing they can do. So, yeah. And Wikipedia pages can be locked down, too. If you look at some of the pages, like for atheism, they're all locked.
I think you just answered it, but does Wikipedia have its own set of...
Use the mic.
For the video that we're recording.
I think you just answered it, but does Wikipedia have its own set of editors who control and edit what goes on the site?
You're looking at it. It's like a room of people like you guys. Just imagine yourselves located all over the room, all over the world. Nope. We're it. People like us. Wikipedia is us. There is no they. They is us.
I send them a contribution every year, so I presume that they have a group of people who control, edit, winnow, fine-tune, correct spelling, that sort of stuff.
That's us. Thank you. I don't get paid by Wikipedia, by the way. No. It's crowdsourced. There are people who run Wikipedia who handle the servers and kind of handle some of the stuff, but the most of it is all volunteer. We're not paid. I'm unpaid completely.
Well, what happens when you write something that is critical, is contradictory to something that someone else has already put in, and it's close to being factual? How do you settle those?
We discuss it. Yeah, seriously, we discuss it. And it's all done on something called a talk page. You guys have never seen this before in your entire life, I bet you anything. But on a Wikipedia page, on the upper left-hand corner, oops, let me get to one that has it here. Right here on a Wikipedia page, you guys have probably never noticed it before. See the talk button up there? If you click on that, that's a whole discussion about the Wikipedia page. All the editors are talking to each other about the page. And that's where we discuss it, just politely. And we come to consensus, and then we go with whatever the consensus is. That's how all world problems should be done.
Okay, one more question, just a little bit of nuts and bolts, but will a government publication carry the same authority and recognition as an article from Skeptical Inquirer?
No, that's a primary source. Wikipedia uses secondary sources. So if there was a government publication about some statistic or something like that, I can't necessarily put that up on a Wikipedia page because I would be interpreting that. And so like the study we talked about how the Pew research that was done that millennials are becoming more nuns. If I just put that stat up there and say, according to the Pew Research, this is what's going on, I would interpret that. And if I interpret that, then I personally am doing original research, and that's not allowed on Wikipedia. So what I have to do is go to somebody who's notable, who's written about it. You would look at somebody who's done an article on it and said, the Pew Research's numbers are in, and according to this, this is what we see, and that's what it means, and then we'd cite that. Secondary
Okay,
sources.
you said it would not be allowed on Wikipedia. Who does the not allowing?
Us. This room of people would just log on and say, oh, I don't think so, that's not following the rules, and remove it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. I know that's a confusing answer. You might want to catch me at lunch.
Okay. During my lifetime, I've had many interests, and I use different names for art. I made up a name, Esther Street, and then some of my poetry was picked up, which I wasn't aware of, and I used my real married name, Esther Schnurberlatten, and then they quoted, she has so many names. And you just pointed out talk. I didn't know how to correct.
So you have a Wikipedia page?
Yeah, I was surprised to find it.
See me afterwards, we'll take care of it.
My age, I said I wrote a poem about it. Even my husband didn't know my age. How did Wikipedia find out?
Right, so we can correct anything that happens on Wikipedia. I do it all the time. Like I say, just reach out to me and we'll take care of it. But I can't necessarily change something on Wikipedia without having some kind of secondary source to prove it. Now, as he was saying, I can't use a government site. I could possibly, for correcting things like a website, like a birthday or something like that, or a name, I might be able to correct a...
I have about 5 different names. I sound like an alias type of person.
No, you were the internet before the internet with all the things.
Yeah.
So if you know of somebody who is in the situation that you're in, you can go to Talk Page and you can leave a note on there saying, hey, I'm the subject of this page, and I just want to make it clear that this is my name, this is my birthday, or I don't want my birthday on here, or could you use this photo instead of that photo?
Yeah.
And that kind of, and I'll take your picture if you want.
They did put a photo. They picked it up from online.
Oh, well, I can. Okay, so cool, no problem. No more questions? I stunned you all? Oh, here comes a question.
Any more questions? Oh, yeah, here we go.
He's running to the microphone now.
Okay.
So I have a concern about skepticism turning into denialism.
Yes.
Going overboard, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I had a letter published in Skeptical Inquirer many years ago, and it was in response to a skeptical article about UFOs. And the person writing the article made a straw man argument that UFOs are impossible because space travel is impossible.
Okay.
That was the gist of the argument. So he came up with a straw man showing that essentially space travel is impossible. And this was shortly after the passing of Arthur C. Clarke. So I invoked Arthur C. Clarke, saying that while Arthur Clarke was a great skeptic of and a great debunker of UFOs, he was also a strong supporter of the possibilities of space travel. And they published my letter. And so the thing that annoys me more than anything are people writing skeptical articles and using logic just as flawed as those that they're trying to be skeptical about. And I saw that in this review of the What the Health movie. There was an overgeneralization in the skepticism, right? It says something about making the straw man claim basically that veganism is a cure for, can prevent or cure all of these diseases, right? And that's a straw man, right? So, diet and also the similar subject of dietary supplements, right? They're not a panacea, but people make up straw man arguments about how they're not a cure for everything, but they do cure and prevent certain things. And so I just want that accuracy, right? And accuracy of the claims. And I see an article purporting to be skeptical of dietary supplements, right? You know, saying one thing in the headline and something else in the body.
Right.
Right? It's not a skeptical article. You know, and that's and I'm just most annoyed at skeptics who use you know, rhetorical techniques to make a you know, a denialism argument.
And we should be skeptical of skeptics. And we should be skeptical of Wikipedia. Wikipedia should be just the first place you go to and then read the citations at the bottom and don't take everything for, you know.
It's a good place to start.
It's a great place to start. It'll give you a good overview of a lot of things. And the scientific method, if I remember it correctly, is that we have to replicate things. So if somebody, and another really great thing about skepticism is I said, you know, we have problems with not having great leaders right now. But nobody's the perfect answer. So somebody could easily be wrong, and that's fine. And I could easily be wrong. Yeah, and I think it's great. We should be skeptical of skeptics, absolutely. And just the ability to be able to write a letter to Skeptical Inquirer, as you said, is giving us a little bit of what's the word for it, where you're able to combat it and then publish it. It's great. We actually have a lot of climate change deniers in the skeptic community. Would you believe it?
Yeah.
We're
Okay,
skeptical
thanks.
of them. Thank you so much.
Well, I was just going to ask you about the so-called climate change skeptics.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said the psychic people are not that organized or motivated, or words to that effect, but on the issue of global warming, you have something like the Heartland Institute that, you know, seems to be a fairly organized, if not powerful, you know, organization that is dedicated to supposedly debunking the idea of the scientific consensus on global warming.
Right.
And they have enlisted, from, you know, a cursory reading of their website and stuff, that, you know, they have scientists and people who seem to be credible, even though they're, I'm sure, in a small minority, but they recruit and gather these climate change skeptics who write articles and presumably give impetus against measures and legislation to curb global warming, and currently they find their support in, you know, Scott Pruitt. So I'm wondering what your experience is on that particular
Well, climate change,
front.
we stay off a lot of those pages because there's some really great skeptics and Wikipedians that are handling a lot of those pages. So we can go work on things like Stanley Plotkin and Thomas Bell, because those pages are already really well, I hate to use the word guarded, but they are. You know, so if somebody who's a climate change denier comes onto the Wikipedia page and tries to change it, they're going to find that it's got a lock. And you can't see it on this page right here, but a lot of these very, very contentious pages, way up here under that little search button, search thing, there'll be a little lock. That means the Wikipedia page can't be edited just by anybody. So climate change is a really serious topic that they're constantly trying to get pseudoscience or their thoughts onto. So what we would do is we would concentrate on the scientists like Mark Boslow, who's up here in New Mexico. We rewrote his Wikipedia page, and the people who are our representatives, and get those Wikipedia pages in great shape. Partly because when the media comes a-calling, who should we talk to? Somebody in New Mexico, maybe, who's an expert on climate. Oh, look, here's this Mark Boslow person. They can read his Wikipedia page and go, oh, this guy's been talked to by NOVA, and he's done all kinds of amazing things. So we don't really work on the really contentious stuff. We try to work on the periphery. But yes, the Heartland Institute is one of those pages. I don't think we rewrote it, but it's one of those pages that we've been looking at too. Did I answer your question?
Well, then, and looking at it in what way?
Looking to follow it, make sure that it stays with the scientific consensus because that's what it is. I don't get to decide what is science and what isn't. I have to look at the scientific consensus and put that on there. I don't get to decide because I'd be doing original research. So with climate change and those kinds of things, I don't get to say, you know, this is the correct opinion, or homeopathy, or facilitated communication, or any of those things. I don't get to do that. It has to be, or spontaneous human combustion. It has to be what other people have said about it. Secondary sources, notable secondary sources.
And I just would have a similar question on the issue of GMOs, because those have been controversial.
Right. Oh gosh, that's really contentious right now, GMOs.
Yeah, Bill Nye has switched positions, and it's hard for, I think, the average person to really
understand where they fall. And that's the nice thing about scientists is we change our minds, you know. And in the religious community, they don't get to change their minds. They're just like, that's the way it is. And on a Wikipedia page like Bill Nye's, where he may have been anti-GMO for a while, we'll definitely put on the Wikipedia page something like that. Well, I don't think we've done Bill Nye, but it'll say at one point he said he was anti-GMO, and then he went and did this, and now he is definitely pro-GMO. And it's good to have that on Wikipedia so people can go, oh, he changed his mind. I get it. Yeah, and these are the reasons why he's changed his mind. Thank you. So I guess there's no more questions. We're going to go to lunch. I'll be happy to talk to you guys about it. One of the things I did want to mention, Jerry, real quick, is that yes, we are a nonprofit. If you do want to make donations to, I don't get any funding from Wikipedia. If you want to make donations to About Time, which is my group, the Gso W Project is an umbrella of that, then we'll happily take donations on our website, which is called About Time. Just look up About Time in Gerbic or something, you should find us. And we'll take nonprofit donations. So it allows me to be able to go to do these things, and also allows me to do more, like with the psychic stings. Because when we go to psychic stings and things like that, we're sitting in the front rows. Those VIP tickets are $160, $200 a pop, so that we can sting them. So it does get expensive. And if you guys follow Facebook and so on, I have a new, I don't know if you guys know what facilitated communication is. That's autistic, where they, it's nonsense, it's pseudoscience. There's several universities, the University of Iowa, Syracuse, New York, New Hampshire. They're supporting this nonsense by putting on workshops using the university's name. Like at the University of Arizona, like, you guys have Gary Schwartz here, don't you?
Yeah.
What the heck? So, oh my gosh, you guys, come on now. So we're trying to end facilitated communications support by the university. And we're almost done at a certain point, and we're really getting close to forcing the university to give up all support of facilitated communication. And the University of Northern Iowa, we're right in the middle of that project right now. So.
Okay. Let's give Susan a big hand. We have a room 2,500.